I've always wondered about the president and banks. He clearly doesn't like him. Now, on the flip side, of course, he has rescued them time and again. So they owe them their business fannies, but he keeps coming back and kicking them in the fanny. This latest effort now to go after these exotic instruments they use to make a lot of money, so that more fines could be in the making. To date, we've had better than $38 billion worth of bank fines. Never mind where that money's going. The fact that it's going to keep on going and going and going. Back with Sabrina and Rick and Jesse Jane. All right, Sabrina, what do you make of this latest broadside against banks?
Well, look, I understand that there are real problems with Wall Street versus Main Street. What concerns me are these sort of large financial reform efforts. I look at something like Dodd-Frank, 2,300 pages, 243 new rules, 11 agencies overseeing it. This, to me, seems like it is business's worst nightmare and therefore the economy's worst nightmare. Better to clarify the rules of the game and let business move forward and individuals as well, rather than muddying the waters even further.
Reform is never dead when it comes to reforming the banks. I should say we should reform the so-called reformers. But leaving that aside, where do you think this is going, Jesse Jane? How far does this go?
Well, it's going to hit the consumers in the pocketbook. We're looking at our interest rates going to hit us hard with our credit cards. We're going to see various ways.
So they'll pass along these costs?
Of course. Everything's going to fall down to the consumers. The Justice Department had collected in 2013 $8 billion in fines. We're talking between Bank of America and France's BNP, $21 billion alone, just on those $2 billion, those two banks alone. Well, when your consumers start being penalized, why don't we reform without such heavy penalties? Because it's going to affect how people get loans. It's, you know, we're going to see another catalyst of problems because the subprime loans were a result of all this money going out, and now we're going to penalize the banks for something that was in law.
Well, and by the way, I mean, there were many hands in the cookie jar, including Washington, that pushed this sort of lending.
Exactly.
Under a variety of administrations.
Since Carter.
It's such a perverse argument you're making. It proves the point. It truly does. If the banks,
you would not penalize.
Well, wait. No, I would penalize. I mean,
without knowing where that money goes.
Well, I would like to know where the money goes, but let's stick
no one knows.
I think you're right. But let's talk about
penalize them anyway.
Let's talk about the penalties. If they do something wrong, your argument is don't penalize them. If they're doing something to hurt the consumer, don't penalize them because it'll hurt the consumer.
These are excessive
penalties. That's pretty ridiculous.
Really? Excessive. 21 billion between two banks this year alone, and in 2013 we had $8 billion collectively across the board. You're going to tell me there's a balance here?
Yeah, when a bank rips off your grandma, can it be excessive?
If a bank rips off your grandma, let's say that happens, and in many cases it does. These are not saints. At the behest of a government that said you have to lend anyone with a pulse, should there be any price to pay for the politicians who push them to do that? And should there be any surprise that these very smart banking guys found a way to package that and collateralize that and make money off that?
Well, first of all, the government did not tell them to create subprime. The government
actually wanted them to expand lending.
The government did want to expand home lending. I completely agree. Not the Obama government, by the way.
No, I agree with you.
I thought that should be pointed out. But
it was too little too late because that was the last thing the Obama administration had to worry about.
But the government never said to credit rating agencies, you should give AAA ratings to these crappy loans. No.
Do you remember what happened after the meltdown? That everyone piled on the banks and the financial institutions.
I'm very old. I remember everything.
For going crazy and lending too much, and then when they held off, it froze lending. For ripping them a new one, you're not lending enough. This civil type of punishment behavior. I'm not condoning the bank's activity. I'm just saying that are they the only sinners?
No, I wouldn't say that.
And is the reward to go after them for sinning, where does that reward money go?
Well, you keep asking that question.
And you don't know.
And I agree with you.
So you want your pound of flesh, but you have no idea what the pound of flesh goes.
No, the premise we're talking about, I agree with you. Done. You're absolutely right. We know where that money goes. You hear that, everybody, but we don't.
We should know where it goes, but we should also direct the conversation to consumers as well, Rick.
You're not going to persuade me that we shouldn't punish banks who do things wrong that hurt consumers because it's going to hurt consumers.
The debate isn't punishment. It's about the excessive fines. When you start looking at $8 billion for 1 year total and two banks now getting $21 billion between the two of them, there is not.
What would you cannot. What would you find?
There's plenty of rules. There's thousands of pages of rules that are out there already.
But I know all this makes me hungry. And I do know that I'm going to go to TGI Fridays because it's now offering endless appetizers through the summer. Not an endless buffet, not an all-you-can-eat buffet, but I dare say I know what the appetizers are. You get chicken, You get those hamburger sliders. You're set for the meal. I'm telling you, you're set for the meal. So, Rick, smart move, sign of desperation.
Well, of course it's a sign of desperation. This is a 40-year-old concept in restaurants. The world passed them by a long time ago. If you don't keep up, come on. I mean, you've got Chipotle. You've got all these modern-era fast food places that people are flocking to.
Do they have all-you-can-eat appetizers? I think not.
No, but that's just desperation. Nobody wants to go to TGIF anymore.
I think it's brilliant. What say you?
Yeah, I have 300 kids at home, and fried mozzarella sticks, I'm sure, would be appealing to all of them. Look, I don't think it's a sign of desperation.
They don't have to be kids, by the way. They could be gigantic.
How old are you, Neil?
Exactly.
But I do think that Fridays is looking at demographic changes and trends in eating in restaurants, and they're saying, hey, we've got to do something, and they're going to try something new, and it was very successful in Cincinnati, and I suspect that it will have some similar effects in cities around the country.
Try changing your theme.
It's bigger than that. It's so much bigger than that. This is a reflection of the economy. Some of our upscale restaurants have not been suffering, but your restaurants that have been catering to the middle-income person, it's not just TGI Fridays. It's also Olive Garden, and it's also Red Lobster. We're looking at 48% increase in food stamps, 20% increase in people on disability. Gas prices have gone up 100%
well, wait a minute. What does that have to do with offering an all-you-can-eat?
How do you explain Polo Yoko? And how do you
they have to pull that market back in because what most of these people are doing now is staying at home and cooking dinner.
Really? What about El Polo Loco?
Oh, wait a minute. That makes very good sense. So you're saying that they will gravitate to sales like this.
All of the middle-income restaurants, reports have come out, have seen a huge decrease in revenue coming in because your middle-class Americans are not going out to dinner like they used to. Their medium income has dropped.
If you had an all-you-can-eat appetizer buffet, you wouldn't at least try
it. I'm back in.
Right.
I'm back in. And I'll be there all day.
Warning, someone always guards the prime rib counter.
And I'm bringing
That's the one you gun for, folks, because they guard it, and I say, I'm not leaving.
I think Chipotle and El Polo Loco would very much disagree with your assessment. They're making more money than ever.
Chipotle is not a sit-down restaurant. That's walk through, grab as you go.
I sat down today and had lunch there.
Doesn't it make sense that he gravitates to a Mexican restaurant?
Absolutely. I love it.
There's no waiter or waitress at Chipotle. There's no waiter or waitress.
I want a year free.
TGI has always appealed to sort of the after-work happy hour crowd, and they're clearly losing that in many of the sort of hipper bars.
Nightmare.
So now they're saying, how do we bring those people back in? And I bet you anything that they don't stop with those appetizers, they order a meal.
I'm just warning all you folks watching, stay away from the prime rib. Stay away from the prime rib.
I want this stuffed potato.
Clear the way. When we come back, have you ever wondered what's going on with these busloads of illegals coming into California? The government says we had no idea that we're buses. We couldn't even see them. Really? You could see rocks on Mars, and you couldn't see these things?